Here we are at the National Shrine of St Oliver Plunkett in St Peter's Church, Drogheda. St Oliver was born at Loughcrew, Oldcastle, County Meath, about 50 kilometres inland from Drogheda. As a young boy, he was tutored by a first cousin of his mother, Father Patrick Plunkett, who later became Bishop Patrick of Ardagh and later of Meath. The Plunketts were well connected. His own family, his father owned about 700 or 800 acres of land at Loughcrew. They had their own corn mill, they had their own church on the property. And he was related to, his mother was related to the Earls of Roscommon. And on his father's side, they were related to the Plunketts of Dunsany Castle, Killeen Castle, and also of Oliver Plunkett, the Baron of Louth, Lord Louth. They were troubled times. The Ulster Uprising took place in 1641, which was soon followed by the Confederate Wars. The Confederation of Kilkenny took place all through the 1640s. And the Plunketts were involved in that. As a young boy, he wished to become a priest, and so he set off for Rome in 1647. He entered the Irish College in Rome, and upon entering the Irish College, he made a firm promise, a vow, to return to Ireland after his ordination. He was an exemplary student, and he was ordained on the 1st of January 1654. But all during his time in Rome, Ireland became an even more troubled place because Oliver Cromwell, who had assumed power in England, grabbed power in England, came to Ireland in 1649, and Drogheda was the first major town he attacked and took. Oliver was unable to fulfil his promise to return to Ireland in 1654 because of the Cromwellian conquest at that time. The Cromwellians, of course, had overrun the whole country. So he stayed on in Rome. He undertook higher studies in the Sapienza University and obtained a doctorate in canon and civil law. He then became a professor in Propaganda Fide College in Rome. It was not until the late 1660s that the authorities in Rome felt it safe and opportune to appoint a few new bishops to Ireland, perhaps 1 or 2 bishops in each province. Oliver Plunkett was appointed Archbishop of Armagh on the 9th of July 1669 by Pope Clement IX. He returned to Ireland early the following year, and he came to his diocese in March of that year. Upon his return to Ireland, Oliver found the church in a certain amount of disarray. The church had been persecuted for the previous 30 years or so. One of the first things he did was founded schools here in Drogheda, schools for the youth of the province, and also he found that many of the priests, good men, lacked education. So he brought them here to Drogheda in groups of 25 and up to 50 at a time, where he trained them. He brought peace to the diocese and to the country. On his travels from diocese to diocese, he found many disputes between local clergy, between the Franciscans and the Dominicans over the ownership of old disused monasteries in the various counties, and he settled these disputes. He came to know most of the mass rocks which are dotted across the northern province. Many dioceses had not seen a bishop in 30 years or more, and Oliver wrote that he was confirming men of 60 years or more. While the Civil War in England was long over, Civil War politics continued in the Commons in England. It had become known that King Charles' brother, James, had become a Catholic, and the Puritans and the Cromwellians in the Commons in England were not at all happy with this. The Test Act was brought in 1673, which forbade Catholics in England from holding any office. Titus Oates came on the scene in 1678, and he accused prominent Catholics of conspiracy against King Charles, because if anything were to happen to King Charles, James, a Catholic, would ascend to the throne. They wished to have an Irish aspect to the plot, and Archbishop Oliver Plunkett was drawn into that. They accused him of conspiring to bring a French army into Carlingford. And he was brought on trial to Dundalk, but his trial fell through there. He had no objection at all to an all-Protestant jury at Dundalk. He was then brought back to Dublin Castle, where he spent a few months, and then they brought him over to England, to Newgate Prison in England. He was tried before Lord Chief Justice Pemberton in Westminster Abbey in London. He was not given time for his own witnesses to come across from Ireland. He was sentenced to be hung, drawn and quartered. He was brought to Tyburn on the 1st of July. He had no fear whatsoever of such a horrendous death. He asked the Lord from the scaffold to forgive him all his sins. He forgave all those who had given false evidence against him.